Eu trabalho duro todos os dias, faço o melhor que posso. Sabe, tem uma grande equipe ao meu redor. E eles me mantêm com os pés no chão.
August 25, 2026, a young woman walks through the player entrance at Flushing Meadows carrying a racket bag that seems almost too large for her, while the scoreboard beside her name displays a ranking number that many fans would have to squint to recognize. World number 144. She is there through a wild card pathway, preparing to compete in qualifying, simply because someone believed that a young player from Quezon City deserved an opportunity on one of tennis's biggest stages. Now fast forward to August 25, 2026, and the same entrance, the same building, and the same player look completely different. Alex Eala walks into the complex with her doubles partner on one side, a camera crew on the other, and a schedule in her hand listing 3 separate US Open events across the next 5 days. The WTA has not publicly commented on the extraordinary pace of what she is about to attempt, but inside Flushing Meadows, the phrase, 3 events in 5 days, is being discussed with quiet amazement. Not because the schedule is technically impossible, but because of who is attempting it and the remarkable records Eala is already carrying into the tournament. The reason this schedule exists goes back to 2025, when the US Open restructured its mixed doubles competition into a compressed 2-day short set showcase designed to encourage top singles players to participate in a discipline they would normally skip. That format is a major reason Eala can take part in 3 different events within such a short window. She is not simply taking unnecessary risks. She is competing within a tournament structure specifically designed to make this kind of crossover possible. Add to that her Grand Slam main draw entry, earned after reaching a career-high ranking for the first time in her career, and then factor in a stadium exhibition against Iva Jovic under the lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium, and suddenly Eala's 5-day schedule contains 3 distinct competitive events on one player's calendar. It is rare, but it is not impossible, and in Eala's case, it is a deliberate opportunity to embrace everything the US Open has placed in front of her. Yet beneath the celebration surrounding her historic appearance, there is a genuine question that deserves to be addressed honestly. On one side is the excitement. Filipino tennis has never experienced a moment quite like this, with a player of Eala's ranking, profile, and growing international following appearing across multiple events at the biggest tournament in the sport's final Grand Slam of the season. On the other side is a legitimate concern about the physical demands of such a compressed workload, particularly when the singles tournament remains the most important objective. Yahoo Sports even raised that concern bluntly in a recent headline, suggesting that the additional exhibition and mixed doubles commitments could potentially be bad news for Eala's US Open singles campaign. And that is what makes the situation so fascinating. Alex Eala has reached a level where opportunities are coming at her from every direction, but now she must balance the excitement of making history with the discipline required to protect the biggest prize of all. The argument goes like this. Alex Eala is 21 years old. She had just gone 3 sets with Amanda Anisimova in Cincinnati and physically faded in the 3rd, and now she was preparing to play a mixed doubles first round, a stadium exhibition, and a Grand Slam main draw first round, potentially all within roughly 120 hours of one another. That is not paranoia, that is arithmetic. At the same time, the US Open's own pre-tournament coverage described the Eala and Felix Auger-Aliassime pairing as electric, which is clearly promotional language rather than medical analysis, but both perspectives can be true at once. Separating mature analysis from pure fan celebration means being willing to hold both ideas in your head at the same time. This is an extraordinary opportunity, and it also carries real physical demands. Eala herself said something in Cincinnati that suggested she understood that balance better than anyone. Speaking to reporters, she said, "Momentum is a thing, I guess, but it's not concrete and it doesn't give you any 100% answers." That is not the sentence of a player who believes a 5-day schedule automatically creates a fairy tale. It sounds more like the perspective of someone who understands that every opportunity comes with a cost and that momentum alone cannot guarantee what happens next. So, let's do the math with her, starting with the climb that made this entire story possible. 12 months ago, Eala's ranking was number 144. Today, according to the most recent PIF WTA rankings referenced in this story, she sits at world number 18, representing a remarkable 126th place climb within a single calendar year. That may be the single most important number in this entire story because at world number 144, a player does not receive a high-profile mixed doubles pairing invitation, a major stadium exhibition opportunity, or direct entry into a Grand Slam main draw as a seeded player. At number 144, you play qualifying, you fight for opportunities, and you hope someone notices. The 3 events in 5 days exist because the ranking made them possible. Everything that followed, the invitations, the spotlight, the mixed doubles partnership, the exhibition appearance, and the Grand Slam seeding, flows from that extraordinary rise. That is the frame. And within that climb, 1 week stands out above the rest. Washington, D.C., in late July 2026, at the Mubadala City D.C. Open. Eala stepped onto the court against top seed Jessica Pegula in the final and produced one of the defining performances of her breakthrough season, securing her first career WTA Tour title and taking another enormous step toward the world's elite. The victory became a turning point in her ranking rise, helping propel her into the top 20 and ultimately toward a career-high ranking of world number 20 on August 4, 2026. She became the first Filipino player to enter the WTA top 20 in the Open era, and suddenly the young woman who had once been ranked number 144 was no longer fighting simply to get noticed. She was arriving in New York as a legitimate international star, carrying a ranking that opened doors that had previously been completely out of reach. And that is why the 5-day schedule matters so much. It is not the beginning of Alex Eala's story, it is the consequence of everything she had already accomplished. And it was that remarkable ranking climb that ultimately put a seed number next to Alex Eala's name in New York, bringing us to the 5-day stretch that makes this story so unusual. Event 1 was the mixed doubles first round on Tuesday, August 25th, where Eala partnered with world number 4 Felix Auger-Aliassime, a pairing that was itself a statement of how far her profile had risen. Auger-Aliassime had chosen Eala as his partner, and together they drew the tournament's compelling husband and wife team, Alina Svitolina and Gael Monfils, in the opening round of a 16-team bracket that also featured combinations such as Aryna Sabalenka with Novak Djokovic and defending finalists Sara Errani and Casper Ruud. This was never going to be an easy assignment, and it did not produce the fairy tale results some fans had imagined. Svitolina and Monfils won 4-1, 4-1 in the short set format, with the match finishing in under an hour. One event was over, but the celebratory version of this story has to acknowledge what actually happened. Eala lost, and the mixed doubles campaign ended before the Grand Slam singles tournament had even begun. There is no reason to rewrite that result because the mixed doubles appearance was never necessarily about winning the title. It was an opportunity, a proving ground, and another chance to compete on one of the biggest stages in tennis. Sometimes a proving ground confirms your hopes, and sometimes it exposes another challenge that still needs to be solved. What makes this stretch even more fascinating is the silence that followed. At the time of this story, Eala had not publicly made a major statement about the mixed doubles defeat. No dramatic reaction, no emotional social media post, and no press conference meltdown. We simply do not know what she was feeling internally. She could have been calmly compartmentalizing the loss and moving forward, or she could have been frustrated and determined to channel that emotion into singles. Anything beyond that would be speculation, so the only honest approach is to leave the question open. Then came Event 2, Thursday evening at Arthur Ashe Stadium, where Eala was scheduled to face her close friend Iva Jovic in the Stars of the Open exhibition. This matchup carried its own layer of intrigue because Jovic was not a random opponent. She had already defeated Eala earlier in the season at Roland Garros and had also beaten her at Queen's, giving Jovic an advantage in their recent meetings. But the exhibition format offered Eala something different, a chance to step under the brightest lights in tennis, compete against a familiar rival, and potentially reset the narrative without ranking points at stake. The US Open had deliberately placed this matchup on the schedule, recognizing the growing appeal of both young players and the excitement their rivalry could generate. Whether one believes the additional exhibition is ideal for Eala's singles workload or thinks the opportunity is simply too valuable to pass up, it remained another commitment on her calendar and therefore another piece of the 5-day puzzle. Then comes Event 3, the one that ultimately gives this entire schedule its significance, the women's singles main draw of the US Open. This is the event that matters most, the stage where Eala's extraordinary rise would finally be measured against the world's best, and the reason every other commitment on her schedule had to be viewed through a single question. Could Alex Eala embrace all the opportunities in front of her without allowing the extraordinary pace to take something away from her Grand Slam campaign? The women's singles draw sheet was set to be revealed on August 27th, and Alex Eala was widely projected to receive a seeding, with several Philippine media reports placing her around the number 17 seed line. If that projection held when the official draw was released, Eala would become the first Filipino player in the Open era to be seeded at a Grand Slam. That distinction is completely different from simply being the first Filipino to compete at a Grand Slam or even the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam match. Eala had already made history at the US Open in 2025 when she defeated world number 14 Clara Tauson 6-3, 2-6, 7-6 in a dramatic first-round battle that lasted more than 2 hours and secured her place in the tournament's history. But a seeding represents something different. It is the moment when a player's name no longer depends on a wild card, qualifying victory, or Cinderella storyline just to enter the conversation. It is the tournament paperwork itself recognizing that the player belongs among the established contenders. That is the historic milestone this story is ultimately pointing toward, and it would become official the moment the draw sheet was published. But an honest analysis of Eala's situation requires looking at two more pieces of evidence. The first came in Cincinnati in mid-August, less than 2 weeks before the US Open. Against Amanda Anisimova, Eala won the opening set 6-4 and continued competing at a high level deep into the match, but ultimately lost the third set 2-6. That final set is the shadow hanging over her US Open schedule because it represents a recent, documented example of Eala matching an elite opponent for an extended period before her physical level dropped late in the contest. The first set victory naturally became the headline, but the third set is equally important when considering the demands of playing multiple events within a compressed period. It is precisely why the workload question deserves serious consideration rather than being dismissed as negativity. And then there is the number that hangs over the entire story, 144. 1 year earlier, at this same tournament and through these same Flushing Meadows entrances, Eala was ranked number 144 in the world. That was the number this story began with, and it is the number every stage of her transformation eventually returns to. From number 144 to the edge of the world's top 20, from fighting through qualifying to being projected as a Grand Slam seed.